Alrighty. 4 Keys of Kabbalah. We're going to go straight to chapter 1. Code and Cosmology. This is, again, the 4 Keys of Kabbalah, a spiritual guide to finding meaning and purpose in your life, written by my former teacher and principal, Yisroel M, Chabad of Marin County. So, Code and Cosmology, Kabbalah in action. Human nature compels us to look deeper, to delve beneath the surface and peel away the layers of what seems to be, to uncover what really is. The first, most superficial layer tells a story, but like the outer peel of an onion, it hides more than it reveals. The Hebrew for world is olam, derived from the word concealment. To discover what lies within, we must first peel away each layer to get to the core and reveal a greater mystery, a deeper reality. The human desire to look ever deeper has propelled mankind into the development of science, as well as philosophy and mysticism. How we seek the concealed truth and what we do with it after we believe we have found it may differ in science and in mysticism. However, the drive to seek a deeper explanation for what we experience remains the same. When we ponder a blade of grass, science endeavors to discover what makes it green, while Kabbalah endeavors to uncover its spiritual significance and examines how it relates to us. The Kabbalah teaches that behind everything that in existence lies a code. If something exists, a very specific energy informs what it is, where it is to be found, and what its function or interaction is with the rest of existence. To understand the Kabbalistic perspective, consider this modern-day analogy: technology. One realm of technology involves infinitesimally small bits of information passing through cables and airwaves. Excuse me. The letters, sounds, and pictures we create are converted into these tiny bits, which can be transmitted instantaneously around the globe or even into the heavens via satellite. They then come to rest in a device that fits in the palm of our hands. When we snap a photo and text it to a friend, we tend not to reflect on the tiny pieces of digital electric code behind the picture. But if we were to enlarge that photo, it would dissolve into a number of dots or pixels. Each pixel has a coordinate designating a specific color in a specific place. And by reducing everything to coordinates, the photo becomes a code that can be easily stored in the cloud, copied and transferred, depending upon the energy exercised on it by the program accessing that code or information. It's certainly easier and more efficient to carry our 1,000 favorite pictures and songs in bite-sized pieces than lugging around multiple photo albums and CDs. The most efficient way to convey information in the world of technology is to reduce it to a code or algorithm. What if the same process applied to the entire universe? Leading physicist Dr. John Wheeler was an American theoretical physicist, examined this hypothesis. He speculated that the physical universe was comprised of information, matter, and energy. According to this theory, the core of physicality and existence is really a code. What does this mean to us as physical beings? Clearly, the very existence of anything and everything depends upon this information. At the core of every cell and every subatomic particle lies information. This information tells the particle what it is. It also conveys how it is to function with the world around it. In other words, its purpose. We are made up of these particles, each of which has been encoded with that specific information. It is reasonable to imagine that information is at the core of physics, just as it is at the core of a computer. Dr. Wheeler further explains, it from bit. Otherwise put, every particle, every field of force, even the space-time continuum itself, derives its function, its meaning, its very existence entirely, even if in some contexts indirectly, from the apparatus elicited answers to yes or no questions, binary choices, bits. It from bit symbolizes the idea that every item of the physical world has at the bottom, a very deep bottom in most instances, an immaterial source and explanation. That which we call reality arises in the last analysis from the posing of yes or no questions and the registering of equipment-evoked responses. In short, that all things physical are information theoretic in origin, and that this is a participatory universe. That's from John Archibald Wheeler, 1990, 1998. But that's physics, you say. How does any of that relate to Judaism? Everything. We can use the theory underlying Wheeler's principle to understand a core concept in Kabbalah. To be clear, I'm not suggesting that Dr. Wheeler was specifically referring to or suggesting the Kabbalistic idea. Rather, understanding his theory gives us a much deeper insight and appreciation of the Kabbalistic idea. According to Kabbalah, the most elemental information of existence is the divine spark. This spark is encoded into information which is expressed through divine speech. This brings about all of existence. We see the divine speech in the story of creation. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Genesis 1:3. These very words are the divine information underlying creation. To use Dr. Wheeler's words, they are the inner bit behind every it. Kabbalistic cosmology interprets the biblical text of the creation story as such. These letters become the energy forms through which the divine energy flows to all of creation. That's Tanya, Gate of Unity and Faith, Chapter 1. Shar Yechiv Emunah, Chapter 1. The letters of the creation story conduct the flow of energy from the infinite divine source into the finite universe. When God says, "Let there be light," each letter in this phrase represents a particular flow of divine information. By articulating his will to create with these letters, the letters and words combine to elicit the divine energy to bring about light. And there was light. This idea must have been an amazing leap of faith to Kabbalistic students of old. But for you and me, living in today's technological age, this concept is easier to understand using an analogy we're familiar with. If you look at an image on a computer screen or a television, you know that the image you see is made up of thousands of commands and millions of characters directing a flow of energy, which ultimately coalesces into a coherent image. But imagine trying to convince your great-grandfather that a movie on a computer or TV screen is merely the manipulation of current flowing through a computer chip made out of a wafer of silicone, not an actual person acting inside that black box. After all, what they would see is a cohesive picture. But each pixel of that picture is given its color, dimension, and location through a string of characters. Ultimately, the reality of that image or movie is just energy, which has been instructed by a code. Now back to the universe. In the language of Kabbalah, this instruction is achieved through the formation and recombination of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. The Hebrew word for human, as in let us make man, or let us make man, but human, Genesis 1:26, is Adam. Aleph Daled Mem. The word itself is a cognate of the Hebrew Adamah, Aleph Daled Mem He, meaning earth, since Adam was created from earth. Looking a little deeper, there are three letters that comprise the word Adam. Each letter has its own specific divine energy. When put together in this combination, they form the code that brings about the human being. On another level, Adam is Aleph, Dam. Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It represents essential wisdom, Chachma, which informs the Dam, which means blood. Imagine you have an electron microscope equipped with a Kabbalistic lens, or filter. Any matter that you looked at would reveal not just the subatomic particles, but also the energy of the divine letters that bring everything into being. Sefer Yetzirah, one of the earliest writings of Kabbalah, explains that each letter has three formats to convey the divine energy. First, it contains a story, the sound or vibration that the letter makes. Second, it contains a shape, the visual appearance of the letter. This shape is a description of the divine energy flow. For example, the letter Yud is a small dot. It is the emergent state of energy, since each letter begins with a dot, before continuing its flow of energy in whatever direction each letter's shape takes. Finally, each letter is ascribed a numerical value. There are no numerals in Hebrew. The Yud is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and its value is, you guessed it, 10. Each of these formats, auditory, visual, and numeric, has its own metric and modality. Each has its own spectrum of combinations. There are many other ways that these letters interact to convey the divine energy. These infinite variables create the vast multiplicities that comprise every detail of existence. Although when we look at the world, we see the wondrous creation of all matter and life as a seamless reality, Kabbalah teaches us that what informs this reality is the combination of letters, codes, and energy. It is the divine bit of information behind every it. Le artiste. It's time for another analogy, this time from the world of art. Imagine you're standing in the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan, gazing at Van Gogh's painting Starry Night. Where on this canvas would you say the artist's creativity is expressed? In its color, the depth, the shade, the perception of movement? Certainly, it's in each brushstroke. Van Gogh's creativity flows through his heavy strokes and dazzling colors. Exactly what he said on the canvas, and even precisely what he left out, comprises the totality of his creativity. The more proficient the artist, the more he or she is able to express that creativity in every component of their work. Every part of Van Gogh's work is an expression of his creativity. But what if we could extract the artist's creativity? What if we could suck it out of the painting? What would we have left? Well, we'd have exactly what Van Gogh started with: a clean canvas and some paint. Without the creativity of the idea, there is no painting. If you remove the idea, you merely have the raw ingredients that existed before the artist's creativity was introduced. Here's an interesting fact. If I had wanted to include Van Gogh's Starry Night here in this book, I would have needed to get permission. See vangoghstudio.com/Starry Night by Vincent Van Gogh. Because even though the painting itself is not copyright, I'm not allowed to create an exact replica or a perfect photograph excuse me, and use it for commercial purposes. Since using the painting in this book would clearly be for a commercial purpose, I would need to make sure that the painting has sufficiently new content in it, so that I don't break copyright laws. Simply put, this image is intellectual property. It's not about the paint and the canvas. The intellectual property is about the idea, the creativity. It is this information that breathes life into what would otherwise be paint and canvas. So too with the creation of the universe, the artwork of the Creator. Talmud Brachas Yud Amud Aleph 10a quotes the verse from Samuel 1:2, which says, "There's no tsur, rock, like our God," and teaches, read the word tsur as tsayar, painter. Thus, the verse also hints that there is no artist like God. Each aspect of existence, whether physical, spiritual, or psychological, has a spark of a godly creative force that brought it into existence. You might even call it divine intellectual property. DIP, divine IP. Okay. Each stroke, each nuance, everything contained and everything left out has an aspect, a bit of information from the infinite creative force. However, there's a major qualitative difference between the artist and the artist with a capital A. Van Gogh took media which already existed and rearranged it into stunning masterpieces, one of which is called Starry Night. Any artist's act of creation is really only changing the position of the paint on the canvas, or for other artists, the steps in a dance routine, or the lines, music, and light in a play or movie. The raw materials already exist. The artist skillfully manipulates them to their destination in the artwork, generating a physical manifestation of their creativity. When God creates existence, however, there's no media from which to create this masterpiece. It is created ex nihilo, which means from nothing. Therefore, God did not just get the ball rolling, then step out of the way. Rather, drawing the divine energy into a finite realm requires constant involvement from the Creator. A constant flow of godliness, godly creative energy, is required to keep it in existence. In the daily morning prayers, see Siddur Tehillas Hashem, page 44, we say, in His goodness He renews the act of creation every day continuously. Put another way, the artwork is complete when the artist places the last brushstroke on the canvas. It can exist forevermore. But when you create something from absolute nothingness, you need a continuous flow of divine energy. Without a continued diffusion of the divine spark, there simply is no existence. We will pick up either later today or tomorrow, holding page 8 at the bottom. Have a good day.